For those who share my faith heritage tradition in the Judaic faith, by virtue of my great-grandfather, I extend to you seasonal blessings in the celebration of Passover, when the angel of death passed over the homes of those who had the lamb's blood on their mantle, and observed for the second time during what has been declared by the World Health Organization as a pandemic, which is a technical term from medical clinicians which speaks not of infectiousness nor virulence, but merely denotes the empirical observation that something is present all over the world, almost like a deity, which the nation's only physician currently serving as a state governor, Ralph Northam, has said is everywhere, or to use the term of erudition, ubiquitous. So he says, therefore you need not worship God in a place of devotional worship, but can do it where you are. But today in the Christian faith tradition, we celebrate the Feast of Palm Sunday, which marked the entrance of Jesus, the Lord and Savior of our faith, into the city of Jerusalem. And the text chosen for this observance in the church of my membership, First Baptist of Alexandria, was the synoptic gospel of the Greek physician Luke, in the 19th chapter, where it was written, "For the day shall come upon thee, that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee, and compass thee round, and keep thee in on every side, and shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee. And they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation." Have thine eyes been cast into a trench might be the perfect homily for a pandemic Palm Sunday. As early as March 2nd, 2020, the Deputy Director for the World Health Organization lamented the fact, or at least feigned so, in an interview regarding the largest sample size trace of contact study completed before the lockdowns in Virginia. An empirical analysis that was the product of 1,800 teams of at least 5 epidemiologists reviewing over 55,000 laboratory-confirmed cases of infection from a novel coronavirus identified as 2019 nCoV and their tracer contacts in the People's Republic of China. A nation now even recognized by Senator Mark Warner and Senator Marco Rubio, the senior ranking leaders on the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, as the greatest threat to the national security of the United States. And where it was found that infections were highly correlated to locations, specifically the homes of farm families in the largest city in the central mainland, and where secondary infections validated a pathogen that was less than 5% infectious among close tracer contacts, compelling the medical determination that COVID-19 is not a communicable disease being transmitted from person to person. That extensive scientific analysis was completed on February 24th, 2020, exactly 17 days after Mohammed Norman Oliver, a man who graduated from a college that requires no college entrance exam but somehow got into a top 25 medical college, and the state health director at the Virginia Department of Health had issued a declaration of communicable disease of public health threat, a declaration that even the Richmond Free Press announced nearly contemporaneously had been exactly 1 month before the first laboratory-confirmed case of infection in the Commonwealth, which they, at the time, classified as laudable and decisive leadership, but which, according to the laws of the Commonwealth of Virginia, presented evidence beyond a reasonable doubt of an abuse of discretion, because the declaration was beyond his authority, or ultra vires, a Latin term used for such a violation by attorneys in court, and hence unconstitutional. So if you closed your business, canceled your church services, took your children out of school, donned a mask, or even stayed away from your family during the holidays, you were following an illegal order, while thine eyes cast a trench about thee, and compassed thee round, and kept thee in on every side, because not even the largest sample size tracer contact study to date, examining over 3 million laboratory-confirmed cases of infection in India, was able to validate a secondary attack rate for the novel coronavirus that has changed the physical appearance of America to even satisfy the threshold of 5% infectiousness, 4 times too low to be validated as an infectious, communicable, or contagious disease, despite what you may have heard in the press or by your leaders. We were not blind, however, to the coming of a novel coronavirus, issuing requests for modifications of guidance to the mayor of the city of Alexandria and Senator Mark Warner, the ranking Democrat on the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, as well as to the World Health Organization before the end of March 2020, and filed the first lawsuit in challenge against the lockdowns on April 2nd, the earliest available day before or after Governor Northam issued his stay-at-home order, and State Attorney General Mark Herring, since that time, has chosen the highly suspicious and peculiar legal defense strategy of evading the sheriff of the city of Alexandria in contempt of court, as well as presenting a prima facie case of conspiracy to violate civil rights. On June 2nd, 2020, we were not blind to the coming of a novel coronavirus, for which every resident of Virginia was mandated to wear its mark when engaging in commerce and even in worship, to serve as a constant reminder of the pandemic, according to the Data Institute of the University of California, the authority of medical researchers upon which the former Army surgeon and pediatrician Ralph Northam had relied, and filed the first challenge to the facial coverings mandate, which prompted Attorney General Mark Herring, rather than arguing the case on the merits in a court of law as required under the Constitution and in free protection, equal protection, under the 14th Amendment, to evade the United States Marshal, a clear violation of federal law, punishable by up to 20 years in federal prison, and establishing a pattern of racketeering activity under the RICO Act. Both of those matters remain in litigation, with the action brought in state court having sustained several continuances of a trial conference, awaiting consent of the governor to concede to the authority of the court to bring him under their personal jurisdiction. While the other is at the Fourth Circuit on appeal in a case in which the governor, the county of Arlington, and the state attorney general have yet to make an appearance. For the day shall come upon thee that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee, and compass thee round, and keep thee in on every side, and shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee, and they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation. Recorded the Greek physician. And since the 1870s, if you are a science buff, scientist adhering to a scientific methodology, have employed what is known today as Koch's postulates to validate the causative agent for any disease condition. And these tests were first applied against anthrax, a bacteria that was observed in livestock over 2 decades before viruses were first discovered, before the turn of that century. With these 4 tests, the scientists can quickly determine the exact amount of pathogen that is required to defeat your natural immune system defenses and cause an infection. But despite the passage of a year, over 500,000 fatalities nationwide, not even the nation's leading infectious control disease expert of report, Dr. Anthony Fauci, has ever been quoted mentioning this critical test, which has yet to be done. Nor has he noticed the fact that viruses are the most abundant biological particles in the world, and before COVID-19 had only produced 220 harmful to man, making them the least likely pathogen to pose a threat to mankind. Similarly, after the failure of the World Health Organization to validate the existence of a communicable disease, Ralph Northam, the nation's only physician currently serving as a state governor, rushed forward on plans to lock down the state against even the warnings of the World Health Organization that such a measure was a means of last resort and would, if a contagious pathogen validated, result in mass fatalities, especially amongst families, because it would be the equivalent of closing the hatch on a flooding compartment in a sinking submarine. He neglected for months the expansion of public health capabilities for performing tracer contacts follow-ups that would have confirmed or refuted the findings in China that had determined that the secondary attack rate of COVID-19 appeared to be a pathogen that was being deployed as a biological weapon of terror, which is yet another federal crime for conspiracy to commit transnational terror against the United States. A felony which is punishable by not just concurrent but consecutive sentencing. But far worse, along with the president, Joe Biden, in his country doctor manner, Ralph Northam has assured Virginians who have waited for over a year, especially the elderly and persons of color, to receive a vaccine that has been rushed through development and now expedited in distribution, have assured every American that the vaccines are safe, an assessment that cannot be determined if no scientist in the world knows the infectious dose of COVID-19, and the damning evidence published in the emergency use authorizations that were approved by the Food and Drug Administration provide clear and credible evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that subjects were tested with the arbitrarily and capriciously selected dosage range of 25 to 250 milligrams, with no idea how much pathogen has been found to cause the rising levels of infection around the world, so as to provide Americans an adequate level of protection against that biological threat. If this clinical measure of infectious dose is classified information, that remains still very problematic, and any reasonable person should have raised a question as to why the infectious dose, a normal medical term for a disease condition that has resulted in over 10,000 fatalities in the Commonwealth, might be classified information at all. But more concerning is the fact that under Executive Order 12598, signed into law by former President Bill Clinton in April 1995, not even the President may classify any information that the government does not own. And unless President Biden wants to claim that he owns a disease that has caused the fear, confusion, and despair of countless Americans, deaths and hospitalizations and infections, will be very intriguing to see what Merrick Garland decides to do after we file our case in federal court this week. And I would not be surprised if he decided to win. For the day shall come upon thee, that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee, and compass thee round, and keep thee in on every side, and shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee, and they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation. And may the Lord add a blessing to the reading and hearing of his holy word in this observance of Palm Sunday and celebration of Passover. And far more than mystical incantations of general guidance regarding the magically infectious qualities possessed in crowds of 10 or more. My name is Major Mike Webb, and by God, I am running for governor of Virginia. I ask every Virginian and every American true to, like the motto of the infantry, follow me, and we shall overcome. Honest. Hey, y'all go back down. Yeah. This advertisement was authorized by Mike Webb. And y'all come back now. Here.